And welcome everyone to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rants alongside Tommy Chrysan here, coming to you from the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. TK joining us courtesy of Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Happy holidays to everybody, and hope everyone has a wonderful weekend for New Year's. Today on Sports Shorts Daily, we talk about some of these bowl games. A busy day yesterday, busy day today in bowl game action. TK representing Meat and Potatoes USA will give you some picks. We'll tell you the latest lines as some of them are moving, including the Georgia line, the line between Maryland and NC State is moving as well. So we'll get into that. Also, LSU men's and women's, they sweep Arkansas. It was a big one for LSU's men and women as they sweep the Arkansas Razorbacks. The men took care of business at home. No way Arkansas, Tommy, is the number 9 ranked team in the country. There were 9 in one poll, 10 in another poll. That was a horrifically bad top 20 team. LSU, they're to be credited. They played as well as they could. That's their style of basketball. If they're going to win this year, is to play defense, keep teams to a low score number, and just kind of eke it out and squeak it out. They don't have shooters. They don't have big scorers, but they play hard. They have a little bit of depth, and they can, play some defense. Arkansas, who was without 2 starters, one that's been out for most of the year, the other who they sat out for the LSU game, was lacking severely in firepower.
Yeah, I watched a good bit of that game, and the defense, LSU played it, and then Hannibal, I loved it when he kept going to the rack and, he was making things happen, drawing the foul and making the bucket. LSU's pretty athletic, like most teams are, but it was the first time I took a good, solid look at him for more than a handful of minutes. And, I thought McMahon did a good job with some substitution patterns and some timeouts. A lot of that stuff's obvious. But, hey, it's a big win. And you're right. Neither team is a top 20 team as of today, even though they both were 11-1 coming into that game. But LSU's going to get some props now for beating a ranked team at home. Great to start conference play with the win. And, now you got to turn the page. You go to Kentucky next Tuesday night, who got knocked off by Missouri. So Kentucky's out of the top 25, maybe not as good as they've been at times over the years. So we'll see if the Tigers can't get it going. But, they really look good. And they got to win at home, conference play. Maybe that'll get some fans out there when they return home next week.
They did have a good crowd at the basketball game. There was a nice crowd, even with some weather where it was a little rainy. A lot of people showed up at the PMAC. Even some of the students who were away came back. So it was a good showing, and obviously you're right. A win like this at home against a known ranked opponent will get some people on that bandwagon, and obviously it'll get even bigger if you beat a Kentucky team who is beatable. This isn't your daddy's Kentucky Wildcats. The Hannibal you mentioned, the guy averaged, 4.5 points a game, something like that off the bench. He goes for nearly 20. And the thing was, they kept feeding him. Oftentimes you see a team stay with something that, something works and then they change. And you're like, why didn't they just keep running the football until they needed to throw the pass? And with Hannibal, they cleared out. They let him drive from the top of the key down to the goal all the time, getting fouls, getting buckets. And it was well done by McMahon and the LSU team. So congratulations to them. On the other side, the women.
Chance says Hannibal looked like you suit up Brian Kelly. When I was watching, somebody goes, "Is that Dalton Hilliard?" Because he had the upper body, had the big thighs. So Chance was right on that too. But then, like you said, moving on to the women, wow.
Yeah, they went up to Arkansas, and again, Arkansas was a ranked team. LSU was favored, and the lower, the higher ranked team, but they never trailed. You watch some of that game. I mean, LSU's women, we know they like to push the basketball. We've seen the scores be at 100 or near 100 for most of the year, and they did not take their foot off the gas last night.
Well, I like the way they pushed the ball up the floor and they played defense. Reese's everything is every bit as good as what we've read about. Hey, Ronnie, let me tell you how much women's basketball is having an impact. I was with a good friend of mine last night, and her mom, we were all watching a women's game. Her mom texted her and said, "Not a fan of Kim Mulkey's outfit tonight." It was kind of compared to some of hers. And I'm thinking, that might tell you that women's basketball is trending in the right direction when they're talking about Mulkey's outfit. And, while they were destroying Arkansas, I mean, they really put it on them. pushing it up and down the floor. It's, again, very athletic, played defense with several block shots and didn't give Arkansas a lot of second chance shots. They were rebounding well. It was a fun game to watch. It was never in doubt. I mean, that whole third quarter and fourth quarter, you knew LSU was going to win. You just didn't know the final score.
Yeah, LSU won by 24. I really thought, going on the road, that first road game and kind of in a hostile environment against a team who's a decent team might give them a little bit of a challenge. That was not the case at all. LSU's next game will be at home against Vanderbilt this Sunday at 2:00. Vanderbilt comes in 9-6, so LSU should have no trouble against the Lady Doors this Sunday afternoon, New Year's Day at 2:00. And as Tommy mentioned, the next time LSU's men's play is in Lexington against the Wildcats. We are in the midst of the bowl craziness, and it's a Thursday afternoon and you're watching games left and right. It's bowl season. What was the biggest takeaway from yesterday's games?
Well, I was going all over the, remote control, got the new batteries in the remote for this weekend with everything that's going on. I was using it yesterday. Huge crowd at that Florida State game against Oklahoma. Lots of people there. And, Florida State didn't have anybody opt out. Oklahoma had a bunch, including some key starters, opt out. And it was back and forth. Oklahoma looked like they were run them out of the building early in the game. And then, Florida State kept going. That's a 10-win season. I don't know why they had to charge the field, after the game, beating a 6-6 Oklahoma team. Hey, Oklahoma, Brett Venables, losing season. That's in the books. But Florida State, it kind of doesn't make the loss to Florida State by LSU back in early September look as bad. State ended up winning 10 games, won a bowl game against Oklahoma, who covered the SEC in a couple of years. So Florida State is trending in the right direction, no doubt about that. We'll just have to see if they can keep that up going forward into next year. They got great momentum now going forward. And, Clemson's not what they once were. Maybe Florida State can get back to the top of the ACC.
Well, to me, the biggest takeaway from yesterday was
two teams. And right, as Chance points out, LSU opens with Florida State in Orlando. That's a season opener next year.
Yeah, and Florida State will be preseason top 10 probably in the polls next year. As Jordan Travis, who threw for over 400 yards, had 50 yards rushing as well, had a monster game at quarterback. He's going to be back. Another team that is probably going to be a top 10 team preseason next year, maybe the favorite to win the Pac-12, them or USC, is Washington. And a big part of that is because Michael Penix Jr., their quarterback, he said he's coming back next year as well. Penix was very good in the game against Texas, 32 of 54, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns. He led the nation in passing in the big boy division. So, those are two teams that, they're not playing on New Year's Bowl this year, New Year's games this year, but both of them finished the season. When the final polls come out, might be ranked 10th, 11th, somewhere around there. Both will be preseason top 10 next year. So a sign of things to come, because we know these rankings are about who do you have coming back from a year ago, even more so than who you have coming in. And both of them have a lot coming back. And will do their fair share in the portal as well. So excited to watch those games. And no question, Florida State wasn't pretty against Oklahoma. They were a 9.5-point favorite. They didn't cover. They were a 6.5-point favorite in the first half, didn't cover. But at the end of the day, put up 35 points. And credit Oklahoma for battling. Oklahoma was out a lot of players, whether it be opt-outs or injuries, and yet they gave it a really good effort. But at the end of the day, 6-7 is not what Brett Venable wanted at Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma thinks of themselves like LSU, and 6-7 gets coaches fired. If it wasn't for his very first year, if this happens next year, then Venable's gone. Year one, obviously, they have to kind of give him another chance.
Well, Byron mentions he hadn't read a lot about Oklahoma fans being disappointed in their head coach. Well, you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. Year one. Okay, 6-7, so next year, if they're 6-7 or worse, that seat's going to start getting a little warm, especially if maybe they don't start the season off, with a bang. And I don't know what their schedule looks like, but, that's going to be a thing for Venables because, hey, they know they go on to the SEC in a little while. And that's a lot tougher than the Big 12, no question.
So, boy, I had my own version of a bad beat yesterday, Tommy. I loved Minnesota over Syracuse. Minnesota was an 11-point favorite against Syracuse. They only won by 8, so I lost the bet 28-20. Minnesota hadn't allowed an opponent to score more than 16 points since the first game of October. All right. And how about this? These are two parts that want you to bang your head against the wall. Minnesota had one of the best running backs, in the country, and Mohamed Ibrahim. He rushed for over 1,600 yards during the season. Yesterday, he has 16 carries for 71 yards. That's a 4.4 average and 1 touchdown. You ready for this, TK? He had all that in the first half. They didn't play him in the second half. They chose not to because they know he's got a pro future and all this kind of stuff. And so Minnesota was leading 14-7.5, decided that's enough. And so they did not play him the rest of the game, which allowed Syracuse to stick around. But here's the bad beat part. They are up 28-13. Minnesota is up 28-13 with Syracuse. Syracuse has the ball 4th and goal from the 9-yard line, and the quarterback scrambles and runs for a touchdown on 4th down, and I lose the bet. It was like with a minute to go or something like that.
Oh.
Garbage touchdown at the end, which, Minnesota, and you saw the difference between SEC speed and Big Ten speed, because the guy scrambled to his left, scrambled to his right, and not an unbelievable scrambler, just a gutsy, run. And there was let's just say it, a white linebacker, number 55 for Minnesota, had the angle, was just too slow, got there late, hit him, but didn't wrap up. The guy ran through the tackle. Number 7 for Minnesota, if you watched, I watched the replay like 3 times. I was so disgusted. Number 7 for Minnesota didn't want any part of it. He just kind of lollygagged over there, never quite made it. Like, it was just such a bad effort and just so slow, where the linebacker for Minnesota and Syracuse on 4th and goal from the 9 scrambles around, breaks a tackle, runs all the way across the field, all the way in, and beats the entire defense to the goal line. It was absolutely disgusting. It was my own version of a bad beat. Play Muhammad.
Well, Ronnie, I got a worse bad beat for you. Wednesday night, I'm sitting with a good friend. Ronnie's stepping away. He must have something important happening there at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. Again, don't forget. Okay, what we got? Ronnie's trying to.
Well, it's called my laptop's dying, Tommy. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay. So what are we doing here?
So you tell me your story. Go ahead.
Okay, so he's got Arkansas -2.5 against Kansas. Okay, Arkansas is up 38-23 with 2 minutes 20 seconds to go, and they got the ball on Kansas' 20-yard line. He lost the bet. Arkansas fumbles on a reverse. Kansas scores, onside kick. They get it. They score again, force overtime. Well, then it gets to the 3rd overtime when you have to go for 2, both teams, and he can't win because he's laying 2.5. But up 38-23, 2 minutes 20 seconds to go, ball on Kansas 20-yard line. They lose. He lost his bet. I was telling him, man, you're in the rocking chair. You got this. And he goes, no, I've seen this 1,000 times. Kansas is going to score, onside kick, get it, score. I said, I'll buy that bet from you right now. And he wouldn't sell it to me. I'm glad he didn't, because he lost.
Unbelievable.
So it happens. But you know what? Somebody that had, Kansas plus 2.5 was real happy. That's what I always said. On the other side of a bad beat, is a nice win.
All right, let's talk about some of the games today. That there's 4 games going on today. Who give us some winners?
Well, here's what I really like. I like over 50.5 in the Notre Dame South Carolina game. Both teams are 8-4. Both teams are going to let it loose, let it fly. You'll see, like we've seen in a lot of bowl games, go for it on 4th down from your own. Well, Kiffin went for it 4th down on his own 10-yard line the other night and made it. 4th and 1. Own 10, he went for it, but he got it. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think a lot of points in Notre Dame and South Carolina. So put a big bet on over 50.5 with Notre Dame and South Carolina. That's a 2:30 game.
The one that to me is tough today is Tennessee and Clemson, because you've got both teams without their starting quarterback. So then, then you have to go to, who do you think has the best backup? Who do you think has the best team overall? And I would probably say Clemson should be your pick based off of who do you think has a better program? Who do you think has more depth? That type of thing. Tennessee was so reliant upon their quarterback, and they weren't the same team without him.
Well, I think Tennessee's a better team. They might play a little better defense. They probably played a tougher schedule than Clemson. So I would lean to Tennessee. So obviously you and I view that one a little differently, but that happens.
What's the spread on that one?
6 points. Clemson's a 6-point favorite.
Yeah. Some other news. You're boorish on Ohio today. I know a lot of people don't know about Ohio and Wyoming, right?
Ohio minus 2.5. That's a good bet. Wyoming's not real good. They've been up and down. I've bet on Ohio 4 or 5 times this year and won. They're a solid team that gets it done. They're well coached. So Ohio laying 2.5 against Wyoming. In Ohio, they want to win a 10th game. They're 9-4 coming in. So I really like Ohio minus 2.5.
The other game that's a tough one to call is NC State, Maryland. The money's been coming in on Maryland recently. The NC State was a couple-point favorite. Now it's to even. A lot of that has to do with nobody knows what's the takeaway is on NC State today, because Devin Leary, their preseason player of the year quarterback, who was hurt a lot of the year, he just transferred to Kentucky, which is going to be big. I mean, they've got themselves a real quarterback next year, does Kentucky. But what is NC State without him? And Maryland's an up and coming, team. So right now the money's coming in on Maryland, and the point spread's even. It's a coin flip.
Yeah, I might watch reruns of King of the Hill instead of that game, and then get ready for the other games today. I can't get myself too excited about that game.
Major Burns announced he's coming back for LSU next year. Good news there. But since we've been on the air, this happened Wednesday afternoon after you and I got off the air. But the Booty decided to, we were shocked at first a few weeks ago when he decided to stay at LSU. We thought he was definitely going to go pro. He looked frustrated. He played frustrated. The fans were frustrated with Booty this year at receiver. He was supposed to be all everything. He's coming back. Great. And then there was speculation. Well, what does that mean he's coming back? Does that mean that Jaden Daniels isn't coming back? Because clearly they didn't have the best chemistry. So we were all reading into that. Well, Jaden Daniels decided to come back, and now Booty's going pro. We don't know if it has anything to do with Daniels. We don't know if it has anything to do with grades, that sort of thing. That's a speculation. Maybe he messed up on his grades as well. Who knows? But the bottom line is Booty is going pro. He's not available for the bowl game. This is kind of what we thought it was going to happen originally. Your reaction?
I think LSU's glad to have him out of the locker room. He's a knucklehead. He didn't throw a single block downfield this year. He dogged it on his routes. He never ran routes hard. You had that whole eyeball test was that he didn't want to be there. He just looked like he never wanted to be there. Didn't hustle. Didn't work hard. Sometimes it's better to just move on and let him go see if he can make it in the NFL. He's got a lot of talent, a lot of upside, but don't think that the NFL scouts didn't see the same tape that all the LSU fans saw this year of him just not putting out an effort and not wanting to be there. Him and Brian Kelly, doghouse a little earlier in the season, and it looked like it straightened out. And we'll just have to see. I think LSU's better off without it. Now, they are missing some other receivers for this game, but LSU's receiver room is pretty deep with talent, and somebody will emerge. Somebody's been emerging for the last 25 years as a receiver at LSU. So one of these young guys, like the Brian Thomas guy from Walker, I really think he may be set to have a really big game on Monday.
Before we talk about tomorrow's bowl games, and we also have a quick take on Saints and Pels, let's play a little commercial. This is for Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We've got a great event coming up on January the 13th. In Tanger Outlet Mall at Gonzalez called Friday the 13th Night Fights. So make sure you Get your tickets at lasportshall.com, lasportshall.com, and it all benefits the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
All right, let's see. We're going to get there.
Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest History Museum is located on the banks of the Cane River in historic downtown Natchitoches. Come check out the state's architectural marvel and stroll through the great Louisiana history of athletics. The best time to visit the museum is each summer during the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame induction weekend, where heroes of the past and present come to celebrate, honor, and party with the current Hall of Fame class. For more information on how you can be a part of these festivities, visit lasportshall.com.
All right, there we go. We got the commercial to work correctly there. All right, lasportshall.com. That's what you got to check out.
Also, speaking of the Friday the 13th night fights, want to thank everybody. We've actually sold out of all 40 of our VIP tables for the event. It's a fundraiser for Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, but we do have tickets, reserve tickets, general admission tickets. So come on out, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Bring all the family as well.
Tomorrow morning on Sports Shorts Radio, 10 to 12, 104.5 ESPN. MeatandPotatoesUSA.com will have an updated line on the Moranto-McKenzie M&M, the M&M match. We're going to have an updated line during Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow, and I know it's going to cause a lot of stuff on social media, so everybody get ready. That somewhere, let's say 10:30, approximately 10:30 during Sports Shorts Radio, we're going to hit that line for Friday night fights, McKenzie and Moranto. Look, I mean, these guys are heating it up on social media, and we're still a couple of weeks away. Can't wait for it, but you don't want to miss that line tomorrow.
Craig saying, "Where's your purple satin jacket?" I'll leave that for Moranto, Craig. That's his style. We'll be at Fat Daddy's and Little Daddy's over in Plaquemine. So if you're around, come have lunch with us. We'll be there from 10 until 12. Great restaurant right there in the heart of Plaquemine, Fat Daddy's and Little Daddy's. All right, so tomorrow, speaking of bowl games tomorrow, Michigan, 8-point favorite over TCU. That game at 3 o'clock. But Georgia, the Bulldog line has moved a little bit. Folks believing in Ohio State. Georgia only a 6.5-point favorite over Ohio State. So if you like Georgia, jump on it now, right?
Yeah, well, it was sitting at 7 for a long time, and a lot of people like to buy a half a point up or down on that hot number of 7 or 3. A lot of people will do that, but Georgia now 6.5. And again, Michigan, TCU played at 3 o'clock, and then Georgia, Ohio State at 7 o'clock. So you got a doubleheader. The two teams that win will punch their ticket for Los Angeles on Monday night, January 9th in Inglewood, and play for the national championship.
Really excited. I hate the fact that this game is at the same time as LSU. Tulane and LSU literally play at noon on Monday, which is unbelievable. I hate that. But I'll be watching them both. I'll probably watch one on the TV and the other on the device. But USC, 2-point favorite over Tulane. You know, they don't have their starting quarterback. They're missing a lot of players. This would be next level for Tulane if they could somehow win the Cotton Bowl. I mean, it would arguably be the biggest win in program history.
Well, consensus has about 68% of the people betting on Tulane, you know, and it's been moving around 1.5, 2, and that's not a big spread, obviously, but it's, you know, when they played in their conference championship games, there was 1 hour apart on the start time when it was the AAC and the SEC game. And here, 2 bowl games, Tulane and a Cotton Bowl. And it's right opposite. A lot of people got 2 TVs. You can do the picture in the picture, whatever you got to do. But I'll be paying attention to that game, no doubt.
Sydney, you're 100% right. I did take a beat in betting on Arkansas versus LSU in basketball. But Razorbacks were a 4-point favorite. They lost by 3. I will continue to bet against this LSU basketball team. I'm 3-1 in my last 4 betting against this LSU basketball team. Not one game does not a season make, or in gambling do you give up on your formula. This is a bad LSU basketball team. They don't shoot. They can't score. Unfortunately, Arkansas, without one of their better shooters who didn't play, looked like a carbon copy of LSU. How about this gives you an idea how bad Arkansas was. When it counted down the stretch, 81% free throw shooter for Arkansas was 2 for 5 from the line. They had a 6-point lead in the second half with 10 to go or something like that. And blew it.
All right, Ryan's buffering a little bit for us. While he's doing that, I'm going to remind everybody Tremonti's Meat and Seafood will be open tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Been closed the last couple of days. 9 o'clock for all your wine, your whiskey, your steaks, your seafood, whatever you need for that New Year's Eve party or for watching all the ball games. Tremonti's will be open Saturday at 9 in the morning. Go to tremontis.com or stop by. Get anything you might need. And 2023 is going to be a big year. Crawfish not that far away, but wine, bourbon, whiskey, rum, vodka, whatever you need. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood will be open tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. All the steaks, the chicken, the pork, the sausage. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Check it out on Jefferson Highway, right down the street in Parkview Baptist Church and School.
Special Happy New Year to all the gang out there. We got some well-wishers. Byron Painter wishing everybody Happy New Year. Craig Schilling. Special thanks to Chance and everybody out there, Sydney, all the folks out there. Hope everybody has a wonderful Happy New Year. Please like and share this video. Chance said still a huge win for Coach McMahon. Absolutely. Look, this is one of those games where I'm happy to be wrong sometimes. You know, when you bet against the Saints or you bet against LSU, it doesn't hurt as bad when you lose. Because that means your team's doing well. But, also I sometimes screw up and do this a lot with LSU baseball because I'm so critical of LSU baseball. And I know so much and I know what their strengths and weaknesses are, see them all the time, hear the inside scoop, things like that. Sometimes we forget what's going on with the other teams, right? We're so critical of our teams. We know what's going on in our weaknesses. And wow, they're not as good as this or that. We sometimes forget what the other teams are doing. And so that was probably a little bit of the case with the Arkansas game. I even said this, had John Brady on AFR when I was filling in on Wednesday. I didn't believe that this Arkansas team was worthy of a number 9 ranking. When you looked at their wins and you looked at their games, it wasn't to me a top 10 type team. But that said, Eastern Tennessee State or whatever came in here 4-8 and a horrible team and lost by 4 to LSU a couple of games ago. So, I was thinking, look, Arkansas doesn't have to be a number 9 ranked team. They can be like a 20th ranked team and still come in here on the road and beat LSU. But what happened was the crowd came. LSU's basketball team played over its head. Hannibal, who averages 4 points a game, went for almost 20. Some people overplayed. Arkansas played its worst game of the year. And congratulations, LSU's men's team probably needed that win more than Arkansas to give themselves some confidence and get themselves going here, for this season. But I'm still not sold. I'm still going to stay with my plan, betting against them the next few games, and let's see how it plays out. I told myself 5 straight games, no matter what, I was going to go against LSU's men no matter what the line was. Well, I'm 3-1 with that theory. Obviously, I'm going to finish with a winning record no matter what, but we'll see if it's trending in the right direction or not. When they play Kentucky, though, there'll be a dog at home against Kentucky. We don't know the spread yet, but I would think probably a 4-point dog against Kentucky. Does that sound about right, Tommy?
Yeah, being in Lexington, 3 or 4. We'll see how that rolls. We'll know that for a couple of days. And don't forget Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow. Sports Shorts Daily, we'll be back Tuesday with all the bowl action on Monday and, LSU playing, Tulane playing, and all that good stuff. So Sports Shorts Daily will be back out at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen on Tuesday. And then, of course, the rest of the week at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
Saints 6.5-point dog at the moment. Who will play quarterback for Philadelphia probably depends on if that line stays or not. We do know that Jalen was at practice yesterday for the Eagles. And of course the Pellies at home tonight against a very good Sixers team. They are actually 1-point dog.
Yeah, we'll have to see. If you're going to bet that Saints game, I want to check the weather forecast as well in Philadelphia. Of course, we're getting so much rain here in Louisiana today, but check that forecast. It's all on the Score app or wherever you look. That'll be important. But Saints, still not mathematically out of it. As crazy as that sounds, it's still a fact. Anything can happen, and you'll just have to wait and see.
All right, we're gonna step aside. We'll be back on Tuesday for more Sports Shorts Daily. The day after the LSU game, we'll be back on Tuesday. Tomorrow will be tomorrow morning on the radio from 10 to noon. We'll be at Fat Daddy's and Little Daddy's and Plaquemine. So make sure you tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, or if you're in the area, come join us for lunch. For Tommy Chrysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. TK, before we get out of here, tell us about Tremonti's.
Yeah, I did that kind of when you were buffering, but they'll be opened up tomorrow at 9 a.m. Anything you need, wine, whiskey, bourbon, steak, seafood. Tremonti's on Jefferson Highway, right down the street in Parkview Baptist Church and School. Will be opened up at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Go check it out. They got lots of stuff at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood.
All right, everybody, we'll see you next year. Have a good weekend.